Hi, Assalamualaikum. Welcome to Early Politics of the World Order. So, for today, we are going to learn about three wars that unfortunately shape our today's world order. Number one is World War One, number two, World War Two, and then Cold War. My name is Dr. Shira. Let's learn this. And then, of course, you have heard about this during maybe other subject, maybe earlier when you were younger. And what we do now is to revisit, and then I will do a very fast explanation about the whole three wars as a recap. And please read further reading on these three wars. So World War One happened in 1914 to 1918. And as a result, at the end of the World War One, we do have Treaty of Versailles signed in 28 June 1919. And the location of the war was in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. So our part in Malaysia, were not involved at this particular moment. The causes of war, there are at least five reasons. Number one, because of the glorification of militarism, whereby to have a strong military power it is also resembling or representing a strong state. Alliance, whereby the nation or the countries have agreements, and then nationalism, extreme pride of one's country that our country is better than others. And the fourth one is imperialism, whereby when one country takes over another country economically and politically, and of course the trigger is due to assassination of Austrian Archduke Francis Ferdinand. Okay, this is actually more towards the reason why, but actually they have the four earlier reason, and number five is just the trigger. Yeah, that validates they need to go to war, but actually that's what the tendency towards it. Then we have this domino effect, whereby when Archduke Ferdinand was killed, and Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia and Germany supported Austria. Okay, when Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia, and Russia supported Serbia, then Germany declares war on Serbia because Russia supported Serbia, and then French pledges their support for Russia, and due to that, Germany also declared war against France. Then Germany invades Belgium on the way to France, and Belgium was, and until today, very close to Great Britain. So because of that, Great Britain declared war against Germany because Germany invades Belgium to go to France. I know it's a bit complicated. When it comes to conflict, any form of conflict is always complicated. Okay, so this is what we call domino effect. One person hurt another person aligned, and all those tangled. And then there are two characteristics of World War One: trench warfare and also usage of new weapons such as machine guns, poison gas, tanks, submarine, and airplane. And we have two states involved, the central power and also the allied power, whereby the central power, there are three countries, German, Austria-Hungary, and Ottoman Empire. And then when it comes to allied power, we have France, Great Britain, Russia, Italy, Japan, and also United States. Of course, casualties, there are many casualties involved, 8 million plus death, and then 21 million or more wounded, and there are 7 million missing and imprisonment of war. And this is one of the most emotional decision made by the leader. And when people say that women are emotional, but actually male and women are emotional, and in the case of war, it's obviously portray and indicate how emotionally male leaders can be to actually announce all this horrible war and kill millions of people. And even worse, we are going to get worse and worse in terms of casualty in World War II and then Cold War. So these are some of the newspaper that I have taken from history.com. So Germany surrender, then they need to sign the Treaty of Versailles. And before World War One, we do have a different kind of state whereby Europe we have United Kingdom, German, France, um, Russia and Ottoman Empire. In Middle East, we have Ottoman Empire, Persia, and Arabia. Then it changed to most countries, and it turns out to be there are Austria, Hungary, they split into two countries, and then we have a new country like Czechoslovakia. We have a new country like Finland, and Germany shrink. And in Middle East, it started to have this Europe interference, and then we have Turkey, Syria, Lebanon. Is the fall of Ottoman Empire, and then they introduced new countries, Iraq, Yemen, and Iran. And this is the map of Europe. You can see there are changes in terms of map of Europe, whereby Germany shrink, and we do have Poland and Czechoslovakia. Austria-Hungary split into at least three: Austria-Hungary and Yugoslavia. And this is Middle East. Okay, before that, most are Ottoman Empire. Then it changed to Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Jordan, and so forth. Post World War One, it is officially ended, and then is the birth of the League of Nations due to the Treaty of Versailles. However, Treaty of Versailles is not a fair treaty whereby it put the losing party, which is actually German, in a very bad shape. Okay, so there are 58 members, but German was not happy with this, and it turned out to be, after that, we have World War II. So World War II, in 1939 until 1943, it happens nearly entire world, the largest war in human history, and the worst part, the most ridiculous emotional decision made by all these leaders. More than 70 million were dead and lasted for about nearly 6 years. Then we have this two states involved. We have the Axis, and also we have the Alliance. See all these emotional men. Okay, we have Germany, Japan, and Italy. Adolf Hitler, Tojo, and also Mussolini. And then we have allied the United States, Great Britain, and also Soviet Union. There's a bit of typo there, Soviet Union. So the causes, of course, as I mentioned, due to the treaty, the discriminatory treaty of Versailles, appeasement, I will explain to you what is the appeasement, and the rise of totalitarianism again. In World War II, they are still love militarization, and it went until up to totalitarianism. And then it is a strategy to lead new world order. So World War II, World War One, and Treaty of Versailles, Germany lost land to surrounding nation, a war reparation. Germany needs to actually pay a lot of debts because of alliance US service and weapon. So they need to pay around 57 trillion in modern day equivalent. Germans are bankrupt, embarrassed, guilt-ridden, and angry. So they've been forced to pay all the debt, all the war debt. You need to remember, war is the most ridiculously the most expensive compared to whatever parties, whatever events that we can have. At least parties, event, people are happy, people eat food. But when it comes to war, the bomb we have to pay, which is actually cost millions, trillions of billions of dollars, and then the causes of misery, the causes of of medications and everything is just too much. Okay, remember the war is the worst decision, and it's actually not decision, it's a crime made by any leaders, and it's not even a good decision or even a decision to be made by a responsible any responsible leader. And we can see here 2.6 at that particular moment, equivalent to a very expensive now. And then German just managed to pay it recently. So appeasement, giving someone something to make them happy. Okay, Hitler demanded land, and as a part of Czechoslovakia, because there are 3 million ethnic Germans there. So they give the land because they do not want to prevent war. But Hitler feels that he is strong because of he gets what he wants. So due to that, it start to have the rise of totalitarian, typo there, totalitarian, a system in which that the state and its leader have a total control. Individual rights is known, like us, freedom of speech, freedom of watching Google and all those. There will be none of it when it comes to totalitarian. No freedom of speech, no right to vote, government control everything, and often a police state. So if we say that nowadays we have kerajaan kejam or whatever, we actually never live in totalitarianism, because what we have today is the totally better, 100% better than in this era of totalitarianism. Okay, so we have USSR, communist dictatorship, German and Italy, fascist and dictatorship, Japan, military dictatorship. So a lot of people will ask, what is fascism? Because this is very well known in the time of Nazi German, okay, in the time of World War II. It is a political belief that says the individual is less important than the nation. So whatever people do, whatever state decision is actually for the nation, for the collective good. But unfortunately, the collective good is not in the right manner, whereby they always feel that in order for for a group of people or a country to be known as to be known and respected, you need to glorify violence. Okay, so believe that it is needed to prove strength of a people. So the nation of itself uses nationalism and racism. You need to remember, nationalism is not like patriotism. Nationalism is the belief that you are a dominant nation compared to others, so you tend to dominate. But patriotism is different. Patriotism, you love your country, you try to make your country better, so it's different. So usually nationalism and racism, they use it together and turn out to be fascism. Dictatorship, they if you disagree, you will not just be caught, but you might be sentenced to death. Okay, that is what dictatorship is all about. So Italy and then Germany became a fascist. So in a World War II, there's the most horrible incident happened, Nagasaki and Hiroshima, whereby a lot of people killed here due to the first nuclear weapon. So, and in this Second World War, the casualties are so bad, and the losses of major wartime powers, and these are the casualties. Too many people died. And then at that particular moment in World War II, is also known about the Holocaust, the event called the Holocaust. Holocaust was the systematic, bureaucratic, state-sponsored persecution and murder of 6 million Jews. But it's not only Jews, but there are also other group of people who are labeled as people that needs to be eliminated by the Nazi Germany, Nazi. And Holocaust is a Greek word, say sacrifice of fire, is how the state want to eliminate a group of people in the cheapest and the most fastest and efficient way. So that is actually what they are trying to do. And because they feel that German were racial superior and Jew as inferior. So the result of World War II, Allied victory, U.S., German, Great Britain, and USSR, creation of United Nations. Until now, we have United Nations. Emergence of United States and Soviet Union as a superpower, creation of NATO and Warsaw Pact, and spheres of influence in Europe, leading to the Cold War. So then we have these two, white and blue, whereby we have the NATO and also Warsaw Pact. So there are two used to be best friend. Now they find themselves as the what we call it the opposite side of each other. Then they start to have what we call a Cold War. So this is the map of a post-World War for the whole world. If you can see, Malaysia is green color, which is actually under the United Kingdom still. And this is the map on the African country, African continent. And again, we are now having we have heard the continuous conflict happened between Israel and Palestine. This is what happened after the Holocaust. Most joined Palestine, and then they start to have Israel country, and until today is the other way around. Israel trying to have a Holocaust against Palestine. What is United Nations? We are going to learn this in chapter 8, and here we are just to mention about this. It is founded in 1945, and in order to contain war. Okay, so now we go to Cold War. Cold War was the continuing state of conflict tension after World War II. And this is between the two bodies, Soviet Union and also United States. And both of them want to be the leader of the country, of the world. And the thing is, two heads doesn't usually work. So what happened? And then we have these two different economic way of thinking, whereby we have US more towards capitalism and the USSR more towards the communism together with China. So it began after the World War II, and it's never fought directly, so that's why we call it a Cold War. And then it is more military coalition, espionage, weapons. So when we watch these James Bond movies and so forth, it's actually espionage and all starting from this time. So the three world order in the time of World War, they say there are three, whereby I disagree with this three. Okay, they say it's a first world war. First world is the United States and the Allied, and then we have Soviet Union as the second world, and the third world is us, all of us. Okay, so for me, I disagree with this category. So maybe we can change, because it shows that our countries as the country as a third world, there's kind of tendency to label as the backward countries. So that's why I disagree with it. So causes of Cold War, as I mentioned, is due to the rivalry between the two best friends. Okay, and then at the war's conclusion, most Europe was occupied by four countries, and US and Soviet possessed the two most powerful military forces. And there are more here. You can see Soviet create Eastern Bloc, and then United States have this containment policy against communism, and then several of these Western countries coordinated to rebuild Western Europe, including West Germany, which the Soviet opposed. And the other region of the world, such as Latin America, South Asia, the Soviet Union fostered communism, revolutionary, and which United States and many of its allies opposed, and many cases attempted to roll back. In other region, Latin America, Southeast Asia, Soviet Union fostered communist revolutions. So we do have, for example, a country Korea, we have North Korea and South Korea. Is due to this conflict. Until now, they are stuck in it. And so these are the main war, as I mentioned. All of you will be very familiar with this. Like in Vietnam, also they have this Vietnam War. Okay, we have blockade, we have Berlin crisis, we have this the Korean War. Until today, we do still have two Korean country. We do have Vietnam War, Soviet War in Afghanistan, and also Cuban Missile Crisis. So when you learn about Cold War, it's a bit complex. It's even more complex because it happens not direct war between US and Russia, but it is happened in many parts of the world that actually uphold the ideology of communism and also democracy or and capitalism. So we have these two president and also Gorbachev, Ronald Reagan, and also Gorbachev. They look as if like they are so what we call it relaxed, but actually they have made a lot of emotional decision that destroy a lot of people's life. So ending of the Cold War, okay, Cold War drew to a close in the 1980s and 1990s. One of the reasons because of the fall of Soviet Union. And due why? Because communism, it's proven, is not good for the economic growth. And but the thing is, it doesn't mean 100% democracy and capitalism is so good. We are going to learn in the next chapter what is the pros and the cons of democracy and also capitalism. And in the second half of the 1980s, newly appointed Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev introduced a perestroika and also glasnost reform, but it was too late until it collapsed in 1991 and become make United States until today, nearly until today, as the nominal power in military. Okay, and Russia is divided into pieces. So that's why we have all these Stan country, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, and so forth. It's after the fall of USSR. So casualties, as I mentioned, this is the most casualty, and it's everywhere in the world. And you can see there's a lot of genocide, there's a lot of civil war, East Timor, and so forth, even in Soviet Afghan war. So that's all for this video. It's all about war. I know it's a bit depressing, but that is the reality. So what we need to do is to ensure that we believe and we instill and influence others that war is a crime, and those leaders who so-called making decision to go to war or to actually send troops are criminals, not a leader. So let's criminalize war, and thank you.